I am Doomsvince. This is day 140 of Spawn Year.
After Spawn's despicable act last episode of sleeping with his own widow under false pretenses, perhaps it's only fitting that this one centers so heavily on rape and prostitution. Spawn doesn't seem to appreciate the dark irony of trying to save a girl from a sexual predator after he proved himself one last episode, but John Leakley, who I'm glad to see is still taking up scriptwriting duties, doesn't let Spawn off the hook. The girl Spawn tries to save turns out to be a predator herself, luring Spawn to her while playing the victim. Spawn is in the worst shape we've ever seen him here. The vampire girl makes him lose a ton of necroplasm, and that's poetic justice in my opinion. I said yesterday that Spawn's actions had become about as reprehensible as they could, and I still care about him one iota, and that iota is slipping here. It turns out this man who came back to the earth for the love of his life is sexist, chauvinist, and has little regard for women at all. He laughs at Cog for being afraid of Jade because she's just a woman, even after Cog tells him she's killed every Spawn she's ever fought except Cog. And when Cog coaxes out of Spawn what happened between him and Wanda, Spawn gets remorse face, that's kind of a new one, and actually says she never has to know, which is indicative of how he treated her in life, too. We get the flashback here of Al hitting her, and in this version, it was because she found his guns and discovered he was an assassin. That's somewhat of a lazy premise. Why would he keep his guns at home? So Al apparently looks at his wife as property he can manipulate and control. He never saw her as his equal and pretended to be a better man than he was. There's that darker side of the masks we wear again, just to keep her. Appalled by Spawn's behavior, Cog says, "Have you no honor?" which is what Cog cares most about. He trains Hellspawns, hoping to help one reclaim his humanity so he might find redemption and finally peace. It's hard to imagine Al could ever be the one that finally reclaims his humanity the more we learn about him. I'm not sure he ever had any to begin with. We're at the same place with Al and Wanda we reached in the comics, though here it seems more intentional. Al is clinging on to an infatuation, an obsession, rather than his soulmate. And it really makes me wonder why Wanda was still so taken with him after he died. And I'm increasingly finding the man, even before he became Spawn, completely unsympathetic, because I'm not seeing any of the good in him that, say, Grandma Blake saw. Maybe she'd change her tune if she knew what we know now. And sure, Cog was a terrible person in life. I mean, that's why you become a Hellspawn. He killed women and children as the Black Knight. But then, importantly, he felt bad about it. He once cared about his honor, was corrupted, and sought to reclaim that honor in his second life. What happened to Al that made him such a womanizer and a killer? So while there's some thoughtful narrative here, a nice reveal with the women who use sick men's attempts to take advantage of them to lure those men in and destroy them, that's both the vampire and Jade strategies, murder during sex, I'm asking myself that $60,000 question once again. What makes this Spawn any different from other Spawns? Now that we have a fleshed out Cagliostro with clear motivations as opposed to a mystical cardboard Mr. Miyagi type who knows everything because somebody has to, he strikes me as way more interesting than Spawn and way more human and relatable. Perhaps Spawn can get there too eventually, but my patience is already wearing a little thin. As in the comics, we have people like Jade here after Spawn defeats a vampire by breaking a window and exposing it to sunlight, marveling at Spawn's specialness. Jade says, "You're not like the others." In what way? Just because he's observant enough to notice a vampire is repelled by sunlight, so he uses that to his advantage? I mean, yeah, if Jade was basing her expectations on reading Spawn comics, absolutely she should be floored. But in this context, I don't get it. Jade kind of perplexes me in general. Heaven sends the vampire chick because Jade isn't getting the job done fast enough. Presumably that means Heaven knows where Spawn is. Now, is that because Jade found him and reported in, or have they always known? Because if it's the latter, all that research and investigating as Lisa Wu was kind of pointless, right? And why was she on the job 5 years before there was a Hellspawn? She wrote a lot of articles about Al Simmons while he was alive, seemed rather fixated on him. Did she know he would be selected as Spawn, or did she only suspect that? I enjoy how incredibly patient a hunter she is, and having angels and demons hiding in plain sight is neat. Since the two sides are supposed to be so desperate to win, they're blurring the lines between good and evil. But I could use some clarification. Right now, I'm suspicious that making Lisa Wu a heavenly warrior may have been an afterthought. But I do love how much of Blood Feud is subtly used to great effect here. Sam blaming Spawn for Twitch's shooting, and a vampire framing Spawn for murders to draw him out. Twitch remains the most interesting and likable character in the show, insisting on returning to work even with his injuries and memory loss, and he admirably pushes on even when Sam doesn't believe him when he describes images he remembers but can't put them all together. For some reason, the bullet in his brain seems to be giving Twitch visions of crime scenes, of events he wasn't present for. Hopefully there's a reasonable explanation for this, and again, for how he was shot at point-blank range and survived. Thematically, the episode is about honor and integrity, what it takes to have and keep honor, and how a reputation for not having a moral code can be used to manipulate and control people. Interesting that Wynn doesn't show up in this one. Although she's been sent to kill Spawn, Jade too has her own code of honor, and won't attack her wounded prey. She wants to wait until Spawn is at full health. In another story, I might have seen this as an easy excuse to get the hero out of a fight he can't win. Here, it's fascinating that the woman who's supposed to be an antagonist for our hero has such higher standards than he does. Man, whenever I start to reflect on the mistakes I've made in my life, I can always count on Spawn to make me feel just a little better about myself. Signed, Captain Logan.